It's wild. It's great.
And are you still doing the meal service, or did you just kind of use it to, like, get some new ideas around meals or
Yeah, we're not using it now, right? But what I did do is save the recipe cards of the ones that my family was like, "Whoa, this is great," so I saved
Right,
those
right.
recipe cards. So
Yeah,
I'll refer back to those.
yeah,
Yeah. So I'm using that. Yeah, we don't use the service anymore. Actually, we
yeah, yeah.
kind of got ourselves established, and I was like, "All
Right,
right, this is great." It also kind of came in and helped me out during like the pandemic time
right,
when I
right.
was just feeling overwhelmed about all the meals that I was having at home. So it was helpful in that way. But
Yeah,
yeah, we don't use it now. I just saved the recipe cards for the things that we really liked. If my family had
yeah.
a good reaction to it, it went in my little stash.
That's just one of the tips we talk about today on getting your family to eat more plant-based meals on this part 1 of the Harness the Power of Planning podcast, episode 77, starting now.
Hi,
Hey everyone, happy to be here. I'm Allegra,
I'm Natascha.
and together we are Beyond Your Wildest Dreams, or BYWD, as we often say. And we are all about helping you prioritize yourself, save time, and accomplish your goals. And why is that important?
Why is that important? Well, I don't know. The Surgeon General said that being an American family parent is super stressful. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's important to your health and not your mental health, your physical well being. Yeah, prioritizing yourself. And this doesn't just mean spa days and
No, not
pedicures
at
and
all.
stuff. Yeah, I mean it could mean that, and that's fun and that's nice. But we're talking about like the nuts and bolts, everyday kind of self
Yeah,
care. Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Self-care as healthcare. And
Let's normalize
actually,
that.
yes. Yeah, and I just actually want to give a plug for a book that I just finished reading called Hidden Valley Road,
Ooh.
and it's about a family with 12 children, 6 of whom were diagnosed as schizophrenics. And I think for me, the biggest takeaway from this book was how im delicate mental health can be, like, how
Mm,
stress can affect mental health, can have long-term consequences, I guess is the
yeah.
thing. And so, you might think like, "Oh, well, I'll
Mm,
slow down when I retire, or I'll slow down when it comes to the weekend." But, it's kind of like drinking water. You can't put off drinking water until Sunday and then like, "I'm
mhm.
gonna drink 55 glasses of water in
Yeah.
one day."
Good luck. Good luck with that. Yeah. Plus,
Yeah, and
especially since just tidbit quick, you're not.
yeah,
What if the water you drink today hydrates you like 3 days from now? So it doesn't hydrate you today. So you just got to do it all the time. Same thing with the self care. The self care you
yeah,
do today has lasting effects. Now, I'm not saying it gives you effects 3 days from now, but you can't just squeeze it in, like you said, once a month or something and think that that's going to be enough, or just take care of yourself mentally, like you said, on the weekends. There has to be ways that you can build it into your every day to somehow.
yeah, and our biggest tip for that is creating a morning ritual, which if you've been with
Hmm.
us before, here is our bouquet of books. For anyone listening, we also upload this audio to the Harness the Power of Planning podcast. And, so how to create a morning ritual is the topic of our book, Rock Your Morning. And all these books are 45-minute reads, and they are workbooks. So you won't just get the theory, we will actually get you working on the thing that will help you. And one of the Surgeon General's recommendations has to do with creating these sort of rituals. And actually, if you go to our website, hold on, let me find it, bywdreams.com. Let me pop it up on the screen. You can sign up. We actually read this amazing 70-page study on parental burnout. I guess we did this earlier this year. We read
Hmm.
You don't have to. And if you go to our website, you can get a one-page cheat sheet of the study, and basically we summarize it, and we summarize its suggestions, a lot of which we
Hmm.
captured honestly in our book, which we wrote almost 3 years ago.
Right.
So,
Yeah, that cheat sheet is like if you're somebody who needs evidence or support of
hmm.
like, hey, you know what I mean? Like just I mean,
Which
I don't
we
know
get
how
it. We need that.
I need that. It's like, why should I get up earlier? Right. And by the way, your morning ritual does not necessarily mean you have to get up at 5 a.m. I just wake up at 5 a.m. anyway. Thank you, perimenopause. So I'm like, I'm up. So, I'm so lucky like that. But, you know, if you need reassurance or science backed, study backed information that shows why it's important for you, if you won't make those changes until you really see like the hard facts numbers, take a look at this cheat sheet, take a look at this one-page cheat sheet. It will give you all the evidence you need to back up, starting these new habits, because sometimes I'm definitely someone who needs to have that intellectual information to
Mhm.
motivate me to, make those changes and maybe get my butt out of bed a little earlier to go ahead and start, do that meditation practice where it would be just so much nicer to stay in bed sometimes.
Yeah, and you never know where that little extra piece of information can come from. Oh, by the way, I forgot to do one thing. I wanna
Oh,
start every podcast with a poll from this little quote deck I have. So, okay.
love it.
Backing it up, let's look
Welcome.
at what and I have no idea what it is. So, I'm just gonna pull from the back, and let's see. If there's something that makes you laugh, then every day's going to be okay. Tom Hanks. I love to laugh.
Oh,
I
yeah, laugh.
love to laugh. Ha, 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 ha. That's Mary Poppins.
Mary Poppins, yeah.
Yes. So there
um,
you go.
well, thanks, Tom Hanks, who's like whatever the equivalent of, he's America's sweetheart, whatever the equivalent of that is, America's dad or whatever. Although that might be Tim Walls now. But
Yeah, I actually saw a comedy show last night, and I'll just leave you with a quote from Aparna Nancharla because I just think she is so funny. If you haven't seen Aparna Nancharla, check her out. APARNA, and she 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 said that she has 2 cats and how living with cats is kind of like living with models. They just kind of swan around and drape themselves on furniture and come up to you and I'm like, "I'm hot. What do you bring to the game?" You know? It was so brilliant. So Aparna Nancharla, very funny woman. Okay, so you never know where that one piece of information that's going to make you do the thing that you've been thinking about forever. For instance, if you've listened to Natasha and I, then you know that for years I have been trying to get to bed earlier, and it's something I've really struggled with. However, the one piece of information that totally changed this for me, and I remember because it only happened about 6 weeks ago, and it was like, boom, the light went off. I'm like, okay, now I'm doing it was that so your brain releases chemicals during the night. We all probably know this or intuit this chemicals to help us, clean our brain, to help us store memories, to help us
hmm
cement what we learned.
Yeah.
However, those chemicals are released in different quantities depending on the hour of the day. And the
Mm.
chemicals that are released before midnight tend to weigh more heavily on the cleaning and repair side, and the chemicals released after midnight work more on the storage and recording of learning. And the thing is there's a lot of brain science about, this relationship between not sleeping through the night and cognitive
Mm.
issues later. There's been a lot
hmm
spoken about with regards to perimenopause because sleeping through the night is always a challenge with hormonal changes. So, that one piece of
hmm
information, like, if I want optimum repair and cleaning of my brain, I need to get to bed earlier,
Night night.
and
Yeah. hmm
that's done it for me. Like, before, it was a struggle to get to bed before 10. Now I've been getting to bed between 9 and 9:30, like, easily.
Awesome.
So,
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
yeah, you never
Yeah.
know where that information's gonna come
Yeah,
from.
that's a perfect example, right? It's that one little chunk of information that makes all the difference. So check out that cheat sheet that we have out there if you're struggling with the idea of prioritizing yourself and getting yourself into some kind of self-care that is really restorative for you. If you need some more evidence to and also, of course, the cheat sheet isn't just about the facts, but also we give you a bunch of little small little steps to start with, right? We're not
Yes.
talking about get up an hour early and do this whole elaborate thing. Small little steps, which kind of like anchor you into this new idea, hopefully, that'll start taking hold of self care, being healthcare, and that you're worth it and you should prioritize yourself.
Yeah,
That
and
is our
how
PSA.
small are these steps? We give you
Tiny.
3 steps. It takes you less than 2 minutes to do all 3, okay? And that might not seem like much, but the science supports starting super teeny, So we give you super teeny.
Super teeny. You can't
Super
like
teeny.
so that your
That sounds like
resistance
a drink. The
super
super
teeny. Yes,
teeny
super teeny. Do you want that dry or
on the
on the
rocks.
rocks? Oh, the virgin super teeny. Thanks.
It's an acai pomegranate chia
Ooh.
seed
Whoa.
with a splash of lime. The
uh,
super teeny. Oh
that
my
kind of
gosh.
sounds
I
good,
Yeah,
honestly.
I think we need to have this on Saturday when we go out. Okay. So, today's chit chat, as you know, we chit chat beforehand and then we have a topic. Today's topic is how to pick the perfect planner. But before that, our chit chat is about introducing or cooking or planning more plant based eating for your family. And if you have questions
Mhm.
about this, wherever you're watching us, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, pop them into the comments. We will see them, we will answer them. And yeah, so Natasha's family has
Yeah.
been eating a lot more plant-based for a couple years now.
Yeah, my
Tell
s
us about this.
my eldest son about 2 years ago just decided he wanted to become vegetarian, which I always find ironic because during my pregnancy with him, I was a vegetarian for 11 years, but during my pregnancy with him, my body was like screaming for meat. And so I became a meat eater again during my pregnancy with him and then just continued
Same.
on. Yeah. Oh, same. Yeah. So, and then when he was about 11, it's funny, 11 years later, after I've been a vegetarian for 11 years, I became a
Oh,
meat eater for
funny.
11 years. He became a vegetarian. And so, I, as a family, it's something that we were already kind of had on our radar, like, hey, we should really kind of start thinking about having a little bit, a little more plant-based entrees in the evening for our meals and so forth. So we'd already been kind of like dancing around it. But then when my son became a vegetarian, there was no way around it. So
Mhm.
we're doing it. And one of the best advice that I had gotten from a friend of mine, she and her wife were planning, had just started really leaning towards more plant based, and she had suggested that we try these meal kits. And so I know it's not for everybody's budget, but if you're already getting a meal kit, or if it's something you've been considering and you can have it in your budget, and I just clicked the little box that said vegetarian. So we only got vegetarian meals. And we got 3 meals a week. And so that was something that kind of spring loaded us, or
Uh,
springboarded us into having. So because I had, prior to my son being pregnant with my son, and when I was a vegetarian for those 11 years, I wasn't like the healthiest vegetarian.
Mhm.
I was like, as my son likes to call it, a mac and cheese vegetarian, because
Right.
it definitely liked dairy, and it definitely liked pasta, right? That was
Right,
like,
right.
and as I was, in the 11 years, I got a little bit more sophisticated, but I wanted to make something for my family that was really tasty and really healthy. And these meal kits really helped me go, oh yeah, right. Oh, chickpeas. Yeah. Oh, we can use this. We can use these
Mhm.
lentils. So at least of the 3 meals a week were from these meal kits. The other thing that we transitioned into, the other way that we helped ourselves transition was, if I'm making burgers, I'm making him an impossible burger. If it's taco
Mhm.
night, I do half turkey and half impossible or beyond meat kind of thing. These meat substitutions are wild. I mean, when I was a vegetarian for 11 years, I mean, you'd only get like a bean patty, like
Mhm.
that was it. Dr. Prager's like vegetable patty, like that was basically it. If you wanted like a veggie burger, it was like, nothing that resembled meat. And I'm not saying that that's worse than or better than, but that was your options were limited, is my point. And now it's like, my goodness. I mean, so as a family, we will have beyond meat sausages and whatnot. And I don't even bother making two different meats or meat alternative at a meat every meal
Mhm.
by any stretch, because the rest of the meat eaters in the family can't tell the difference.
Mm.
you know and ultimately, I think that just leaning towards more plant-based has been way easier than I think I was originally kind of like making it out to be initially. Like, even though I had been a vegetarian for 11 years, but now just shifting gears after becoming a mom, and having kind of like sort of a playbook of meals that I would go to suddenly
Right.
go, okay, we're going to go meatless. That the meal service, and of course, so many different options out there for the the meat alternatives. It's wild. It's great.
And are you still doing the meal service, or did you just kind of use it to, like, get some new ideas around meals or
Yeah, we're not using it now, right? But what I did do is save the recipe cards of the ones that my family was like, "Whoa, this is great!" So I saved
Right,
those
right.
recipe cards. So
Yeah,
I'll refer back to those.
yeah,
Yeah. So I'm using that. Yeah, we don't use the service anymore. Actually, we
yeah, yeah.
kind of got ourselves established, and I was like, "All
Right,
right, this is great." It also kind of came in and helped me out during like the pandemic time
right,
when I
right.
was just feeling overwhelmed about all the meals that I was having at home. So it was helpful in that way. But
Yeah,
yeah, we don't use it now. Just I just saved the recipe cards for the things that we really liked. So if my family
yeah,
had a good reaction to it, it went in my little stash.
right. No,
Hmm.
that's such a great way to get started is, like, it just gives you that little bump, that little, uh, boost of confidence,
Yeah.
some new flavor profiles, for those of
Helps
you.
you, yeah, helps you like establish a new kind of like mindset or skill around it where like before
Yes.
you're like, what do I make? I don't even know.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's a little bit of hand-holding. So,
Exactly.
yeah, that's great. So I my story was similar. I was vegetarian before I got pregnant. My 3rd trimester, I couldn't seem to get enough calories, and I was craving a turkey burger like crazy. And, yeah, so we haven't gone back, and although we eat a lot of plant-based meals, we definitely eat way more meat than I guess someone who is saying they're more plant-centric would
Hmm.
eat. And, for me, I'm super health motivated. I'm not as I have a certain amount of vanity, but I'm definitely much more health motivated than looks motivated. And so the thing that really kicked me in the butt is that for the last few years, I've been seeing my cholesterol creep up after going from having like super low cholesterol.
Hmm.
And for anyone who doesn't know, your female body uses cholesterol to make hormones. So when you enter perimenopause, your body starts using less and less cholesterol. So your cholesterol creeps up.
I did not know that. That is really interesting.
Yep.
Go on.
It's
Tell me more.
inevitable, right? You can
Uh-huh.
eat exactly the same way and it is inevitable. Your cholesterol is going to go up.
Hmm.
And so I wrote down the number, but I think the acceptable here it is. My cholesterol is 208 and it should be below 199. So it's just that side
Yeah.
of not good.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, it's time. I need to nip this in the bud. And, I've been watching it go up. Now, I've been listening to this book, and I'll pop it up on the screen, called How Not to Die by Dr. Michael Greger. And if I'll put it in the show notes for anyone listening to the podcast. And I've been listening to this book for months, maybe 6 or 8 months because
Oh.
it's very dense. It's a
Okay.
I I don't know how many pages it is, but as an audiobook, it is long. So it seems like it's a lot of pages. Or or maybe it's just because there's no plot driving it, so it's a little you're like, "Okay, I need to take a little bit of a break." So I've taken some breaks,
Hmm.
and, if you look at our Instagram or my personal Instagram, which is allegraramos.com, you'll see that I've been talking about this book because, it's not How Not to Die Ever, right? He's not trying to make you immortal. That sounds like a fiction book I would read. No, he's talking about how not to die from preventable things. So, how not to die from cholesterol, how not to die from blood
Mm.
pressure, how not
Mhm.
and it's very insightful, although a little bit dry, the first, I don't know, 3/4. The last fourth, it really picks up speed because he starts talking more about, like, what you can do, what you should do, and that was just this book is really what kicked me in the butt about eating more plant-based because as he was describing his quote unquote, prescriptions for healthier living, it was all how I used to eat before I got pregnant.
Mhm.
And I was like, I've done this before.
Right.
I just
Yeah.
have gotten way off track. I mean, I remember my husband and I went years without eating a refined carbohydrate. And so now that I have these cholesterol numbers that I need to deal with, I am motivated to do it, and actually, I have right here, my breakfast I didn't finish, which is sautéed mushrooms and kale on a bed of millet with black beans, and, yeah, so I have been making the switch hardcore, and my husband, as long as it tastes good, he doesn't care because he's happy to eat whatever, so no complaints there. There are
Yeah.
complaints from my kiddo, and I've just had to be really honest with her about the fact that mommy and daddy's cholesterol my husband's cholesterol is also elevated, which, I don't know exactly why that is. I haven't dived into why his might be elevated as well, but I was like, "Mommy and daddy's cholesterol is elevated, baby. Like, if you want us around, we need to bring it down."
Seriously.
And the other thing too is that the end of the book, How Not to Die, goes into great detail about, how eating processed foods really hijacks your brain. Because so if you think about it like this, when there's really loud music playing, what do? You turn it down because it's just too much input. Same
Mhm.
thing happens when you eat highly processed food. Your body turns down your taste buds because the sugar or the fat, it's just so much input that it actually needs to turn it down, and it keeps turning it down, which means you need to eat more sugary, you need to eat more fat.
Mhm.
You need to eat higher levels of those in order to get the same reaction, right? I mean, we've all heard this before
I
with
mean,
with
it's like heroin or you know
with
what I mean? Like
drugs,
any kind of
exactly.
drug, right? You have to, yeah, you have
Exactly.
to just get more and more to get that high, right? Mhm.
Exactly. So,
Mhm.
I have decided that I'm going to play that part of the book for my kiddo so she can hear it because,
Mm, yeah.
I had never heard it explained that way, and, maybe that will help her with this transition that we are making.
Yeah, talk about needing information to have something be understood and stick. My kid's the same way.
Yeah.
Like he needs hard facts. I have to back up. I have to come with receipts as to why it's important for him to get sleep at night as a teenager. That kind of thing. Why do I have to go to bed so early? Well, let's sit down and see why, honey. You know.
Yeah.
So same thing with this vegetarian. That's great. Hmm.
The other tip I would have for transitioning to more plant-based meals is there are so many amazing ways to make your food taste good, like, after the fact, that are healthy. Like, for instance, one thing that he's a big fan of is nutritional yeast,
Oh, I love
and
nutritional yeast.
here I was gifted this
I
nutritional
really love it.
yeast. I was gifted this nutritional yeast. The company is called Nooch.
Oh,
Do you know
nice.
Nooch?
No, I don't. No.
Okay. So the company is called Nooch, and the Nooch I was gifted has black truffle in it.
What?
Black truffle
Oh
nutritional
my
yeast.
god.
I I put a tablespoon. Oh my god, it makes
Uh,
everything, and,
yeah.
like, you know what I really wanna do is air popped popcorn with that nutritional yeast.
Yes. Yes.
So good.
First of all,
And
I love anything with truffle, and nutritional yeast is like the unsung hero of like the vegan, vegetarian, not
it's like
plant-based.
cheesy salt.
It is cheesy salt. It's crazy, and
Cheesy
it's
salt.
and it's good for you, which is so crazy, and it just makes it taste so yummy and cheesy. It's delicious.
Yeah, it makes it taste so good, and, like, caramelized onions, caramelized onions and caramelized mushrooms, and by caramelized, that just means cooked, right, in a
Hmm.
teensy bit of oil. They make everything taste good. So,
So good.
yeah, so there are ways to make vegetarian cooking delicious, or let's say plant-based, and I really like that Dr. Greger uses the term plant-based because he says
Hmm.
he likes to focus on what you can eat, not what you can't, because there are
Hmm.
so many delicious foods out there.
So
So
many.
I think that's really smart. So, start small. Start with, meatless Mondays and then go to meatless Tuesdays
Yeah,
and
exactly. Yeah, it's just even replacing 1 or 2 meals a week with plant-based can make such a huge difference. We really, it's just centric, like the meat is the core of your meal, and then everything
yeah.
else like around it. And it's not necessary. It's not.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And actually that was a big mind shift for me was thinking, okay, if I take the things I usually think of as side dishes, like I would make this
Mm.
what I'm eating right now for breakfast as a side dish.
Right.
Just think of it as shifting your side dishes to the majority of your
Mhm.
plate.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's so start small, like with all things. If you want permanent change, it's best to start small and then, go into it. But like my family, we try to only eat out once or twice a week. And so I'm going to suggest at some point, not yet, because again, small changes, but
Yeah, yeah.
at some point I'm going to suggest to our family that we save eating out for when we eat any sort of animal-based products or animal-based ingredients, I should say.
Mhm.
So that's my goal. So there you
Great.
go.
Very cool. I mean, and bringing your whole family on this health journey too. Yeah. Yeah, I can your daughter is not as into my younger son, the non-vegetarian, is
Yeah.
like meat. Like if we ever have like steak or something, he's super excited, like it's just he's very meat focused, but it doesn't mean that he has a problem when we have vegetarian meals at all. Like he's not,
Mhm.
he's even though when we do have meat, he's very excited. Um but when we don't, he's, if it like you said, if it's delicious, nobody cares.
Well, and the other thing too is there's something to be said about saving nutrient dense animal meals for people who are really growing, pregnant
Mhm.
women, or the
Mhm.
elderly. Like it is very nutrient dense, and in
Right.
traditional societies, I was an anthropology major, right, an undergrad. When a hunt is successful, they will give the best parts to these populations that require a little more
Mm.
nutrition.
Mhm. Makes
So,
sense. Yeah.
that's not
Mhm.
necessarily a bad thing that he's, needing meat at this stage in his life since he's a little bit younger
Oh
and still
yeah, for
growing.
sure. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us this week. We will see you next week at the same time. Or again, if you want to listen to us as a podcast, go to the Harness the Power of Planning podcast wherever you listen, and be sure to like and subscribe. It helps, with the algo.
The algo.
The
I like
algo.
that.
Thanks for joining us. Dream wild,
Great.
wild dreamers. Thanks for joining us for the Harness the Power of Planning podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe wherever you listen.